Yo, what's cracking, folks? Welcome to episode number 11 of The Painter and the Pixie.
11, woohoo!
I'm your host, Jeremy Vassar, and I am joined by my lovely wife, Serena.
Hi, everyone.
And we are the Painter
And the Pixie.
And the Pixie. And, all right, so in this episode of the podcast, Serena and I are chatting about circadian rhythms, schedules, routines, morning people versus night owls.
Yeah, the great debate.
The great debate. And just kind of some of the science behind it from a nutrition perspective. Yeah. You were talking about some blue light stuff at the end, having some good wind down procedures for the evening. I think we covered a good amount of stuff.
Yeah,
there.
I think you guys will like it.
Yeah, and if you all like the show, please share it with a friend or someone you think would enjoy it. That would help us out tremendously. And without further ado, please enjoy episode number 11 of The Painter and the Pixie.
This is only the beginning.
All right, ready?
Ready?
What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I don't believe it.
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
Hey, what's up, girlie? How you doing?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. How's yoga going so far for you this week?
Yeah, it's going great. You know, it's been good. I've been there now just 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Consistently, 9:30 yesterday, 9:30 today. And I'm unbelievably sore for 2 days of yoga.
Yeah, well, you're out of your normal yoga shape as far as like when you did it like every day in a row.
I am, and I'm practicing a little bit differently this time. We talked a little bit before how I went and saw somebody for like fitness instruction, and I found out. Yeah, I forgot if I said her name or not, but my hip tracking the right way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It makes such a difference. It is such a different experience going on to your mat saying, I'm going to make sure my hips are both facing the right direction when one of them's been facing the wrong direction for a long time.
Right.
It's kicking my butt. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. I have a similar issue with my hips are just really locked up. Mm-hmm. So like, especially when we do triangle, it's just really hard for it to like everything to stay kind of like you're pressed between two planes of glass.
Yeah.
So. Because we've been chatting this week and previously, and something we've always messed with is kind of our topic for today is schedules, routines, and more recently kind of the debate between morning people and night owls. Yes. So, that's kind of, I think you and I both kind of run experiments to see like what's going to stick and then see kind of like, hey, is this going to work? Or should I try something else? Or if it's going to integrate into a structure or framework that will allow you to flourish.
Yeah, test it out. See if you like it.
Because we've done different challenges and we've done some stuff in the past where we've both gotten up really early. I used to do yoga at like 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you did that.
Which was gross. For
several weeks in a row.
Yeah. So I think this is probably a good time to introduce the book that you are listening to this week, which I know a bit about. It's called Magical Morning? No,
it's called The Miracle Morning.
The Miracle Morning. Yeah. I think there was some element of wizardry involved.
Yeah, and I forget who the author is. I know I just said it. Hold on.
Hal something?
Hal something. I can't remember his last name.
Your pal Hal?
Hal Elrod.
There you go.
The Miracle Morning. So I just started listening to that. A good friend of mine, hi Megan, if you're listening, had recommended that I listen to it so that we can chat about it together. And so I started listening. I'm in the middle of chapter 7 right now.
Okay. So do you feel like you have a grasp on the premise?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting book. It's always so... Jeremy, you and I have had conversations, and I've had conversations with my friend Megan too, about being consistent and achieving goals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I bring Megan into the picture just because she and I are closer to achieving our physical goals than you are, because you can already lift like 1 million pounds.
Definitely.
We are not that strong as
definitely
women.
Not 1 million. I have some physical goals that are not, they're not lift 1 million pounds, but yeah.
True. But anyway, the process that we come to, the conclusion we always come to is like, man, we just got to do it every day. We just got to do it every day. And it lasts for 3 or 4 or 5 days. And then we stop and we're like, oh man, something happens and gets in the way. And you just make excuses or it's not consistent. So I decided last week that I just want to be consistent. I'm just going to make sure my schedule allows for me to be consistent.
Yeah. And I think that's what drew you to the fact they have this 9:30 class like Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
and
the
a lot
yoga studio.
a lot of times your clients are in the afternoon or evening, so it's kind of works out for you to because our schedules. If you continue kind of doing your, I won't call it like working out, but your fitness stuff, yoga in the morning, all my fitness stuff is at night after work. So, but my schedule is way more consistent than yours as far as from like a working standpoint.
Well, and you don't have to accommodate for after business hours.
Right.
Because that, like, you can go and work out and you come home at the same time I'm just getting home from my office. Right. So that's why, I mean, I've really liked it. I mean, it's been 2 days of being consistent.
Yeah.
But it's been great. Been kicking my butt, and I'm really happy to start this schedule change of mine. Because what I did is I normally would have clients Wednesday mornings and Friday mornings, and those were my morning hours for people. But you know what? They're neither one of them are very popular times because, like I said, I work till 8:30 most days of the week. Everyone comes after work,
right?
Which is so much more convenient.
Makes sense, yeah.
Totally makes sense. So I just moved people over to Friday, and I can now go to yoga 9:30 a.m. consistently across the boards if I want to.
Yeah, yeah. And I haven't read The Miracle Morning, but my brother has, and then I've read a whole slew of books that are heavily focused on developing, particularly in the business world, the getting up crazy early in the morning is very, very, it's almost, there's almost like a dogma around it, of like, if you want to be successful, you need to get up at the butt crack of dawn and get a whole bunch of stuff done before anyone else is even awake.
Right.
And that's like, some of the guys pretty much verbatim have said, you know, I do more before 7 o'clock than most people do all day.
Yeah.
You know, because they're getting up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever it is to, you know, they get up and exercise. And certain guys have, you know, different routines that they have in the morning to kind of set their day up. Jacko Willink comes to mind.
Yes, I was thinking about Jacko Willink earlier.
For those who might not be familiar, Jacko Willink is a retired Navy SEAL. He was the SEAL commander for a force in Iraq, and they saw I'll remember the name of his battalion or platoon soon, but anyway, Task Force Bruiser, I'm pretty sure it was his task force. He wrote a book with Leif Babin, who's his one of his subordinates, but like a guy that he was in the military with, and they were very close, and they wrote a book called Extreme Ownership that got very popular in the business world, and they actually have a consulting company that consults. They use the lessons they learned being SEAL commanders,
right, and
they transfer that to the business world. And one of the things that Jacko always talks about is his Instagram. Almost all of his Instagram photos are just a picture of his like Timex watch, and it just says 4:31. Like, and it's like 4:31 in the morning, and his caption will just be like, "Get after it," and then it's like a picture of a squat rack. He's doing like, you know, deadlifts and
4:30 in the morning.
Also, Jacko's a complete monster. He's probably like 6'2", 6'4", somewhere in there. Wow. 240 pounds, black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Also Navy SEAL, but he trains with like some of the most bad A dudes in the Jiu-Jitsu community too, like Dean Lister and all these other high level monsters. But
let's go. What you said about the morning.
Yeah. So, but that's his whole shtick is like the 4:30 a.m. Like every single morning, that's his, and it's black and white. All his photos are. It's really funny. That's great. But he's so intense. But then, this is just a side plug. If you listen to Extreme Ownership, the Audible book,
it's hilarious.
Jacko and Leif narrate it, and I kid you not, Leif's voice, like Jacko's is pretty deep, but then Leif's voice, it sounds cartoonishly deep. Yeah. It's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" I'm not even joking.
No, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's literally, it's really fun to
all right, guys, it's time to get after it. It's time to do this. Which made my brother and I laugh every time we listen. Yeah.
That was a good book. I read Extreme Ownership, and then Jacko Willink's book is called what's it called?
Oh, the black and white one?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Discipline Equals Freedom?
Yes.
Damn, good
you're
pull.
So good.
Woo.
Discipline Equals Freedom. I could imagine it. I was imagining some of the pages, but yeah.
Jeremy for the win. So yeah, the whole morning thing, I have tried numerous times to become and force myself to become a morning person.
Yeah, you have put in some good effort.
Like, I really have tried. And I know some people are like, "Oh, you know, you might have not." No, I like legitimately tried for months.
I mean, you got up at what, 4 something to go to yoga at 5:30.
And you mentioned this earlier too. The 5:30 yogas were only twice a week, so it wasn't like you were getting up, or I was getting up at. I had to give up at 4:45 every morning to get out of the house in time to get over there. Those were the worst yoga sessions I've had, and my favorite part was going to the Starbucks next door and getting a venti and just sitting in my truck and just holding it and just being like, "Oh, sweet baby Jesus, thank you for this coffee."
At 7 in the morning.
Oh yeah, because then
7:30.
And a lot of times, like I wouldn't even drive to the job site. Right straight from there. I'd have to wait or come from home. But anyway.
So, point being, a lot of these books we've talked about really encourage the listener, the reader, to become a morning person.
They are heavily skewed in that direction of being a morning person because, and I understand why, and I'm saying this right now, is that there's absolutely 100% nothing wrong with being a morning person.
None at all.
Hats off to you if you are one, because I think for whatever reason your circadian rhythm is set up that you have a proclivity to get up that early. That's awesome. But what Josh and I have noticed, and he's way more of a night owl than I am. My ideal setup would be like if I could sleep in till about like 8 or 9 and then go to bed between midnight and 1. Like, so my brother's wife's been out of town the last 6 days, and my brother has not gone to bed before 1 o'clock entire, because he's naturally would stay up later.
Well, he's focused and he's getting stuff done.
Or just frogging around. Yeah. But, so that's like our natural rhythms where, some people just get up and they're super bubbly. You're someone where when you wake up and you actually turn on, you just start talking a mile a minute. It's weird because you have like a delay setting, and like as soon as the fog clears, you're just like,
it takes me a couple minutes. If I wake up, I'm like mid-cycle, REM cycle or whatever. I feel like I'm awake and lucid, but I feel like I'm dragging a little bit. And then maybe 5 minutes in, it's like, bing.
Yeah.
Wide awake, open, like asking you a million questions and talking to you about plans for later that day. And you're just like, please let me drink my coffee in peace.
Well, in the Vassar household, none of my family are morning people. Yeah. And even when like in elementary school or middle school, whatever, my mom would get up with us because she like made our lunches and stuff, and then she would like make us breakfast too, and then she would go like, we just communicated through like a series of grunts.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
We just be like, we always said thank you. That was a big deal. Good. So you say thank you, but and you'd be like, okay, she'd be like, okay, sweetie, have a good day, and then that's it. There was no dissection of material or anything like that.
No
it was
complicated questions coming from your wife 50 miles an hour just waking up.
Like you'll tell me stuff that then like makes me upset, where I'm like, this is stuff I need to engage with, and I never have a good reaction.
Really? I tell you stuff that makes you upset?
Yeah, well, you'll tell me about like current events of like things that happen in your world or whatever. Be like, can you believe this person did this? And I'm like, what? And then anyway, but so that being said, like I've tried to get up early and practice guitar. I've tried to get up early and exercise, because that's another big push of a lot of these books, is that you get up early and you go exercise. Right. Like you go on a run or you go, and I've tried to like get up and go to High Point and work out at like 6 in the morning. My brother was doing that. He was doing spin classes for a while.
I remember that.
At like 6 in the morning, which he hated. Because then we get to the job site, we're already tired.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
And we always joke that we want to write a book called, because everything's like Miracle Morning this, and there's a whole, any of these.
All about the morning.
Yeah, all about the morning, where we want to write one called If You Want to Be Great, Stay Up Late. That's like, that'd be our book.
That's a good name. I have not heard that before. That's really funny.
Because what we were then hashing out is that it's really about being consistent. Yeah. And most of... if you're going to be successful in something, you have to put in consistent effort over time.
Right. Yeah. So you asked me, I think I agree with you. I think you asked me at the beginning, and I think I got off on a tangent, what I thought of this book so far, The Miracle Morning. I think it's really useful. It's nice. It's a little bit cheesy. I think all these books are a little bit cheesy, but that's okay. You want it to be light and fun and easy to engage with. But the concept is, from what I understand, I know I'm not all the way through the book yet, but it's not like... the author Hal gives an example of waking up he normally gets up at 6, so he got up at 5 and he worked on personal development. to kind of make himself a better person so that he could achieve the goals he wanted to achieve. And then he's like, but I realized I loved that time so much that I wanted more of it. So then he got up at 4. And so he got up early, exercises, does all this stuff before he really starts his day. So he takes time for himself. What I'm taking away from it is people who take time for themselves, and Hal's point, I believe he comes to at the end, is take an extra hour in your morning.
Okay.
Not like wake up at 4:30. So if you normally get up at 10, get up at 9.
Which I definitely don't.
Right. If you normally get up at 7,
Love
get up
to.
at 6. If you
Yeah,
get up at
yeah.
8, get up at 7. And fill that space, that extra space where you would be sleeping normally, with something productive to kind of get yourself moving in the right direction from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Yeah. And I also see a context situation brewing. Like,
Yes.
so we don't have kids yet. But if we did, like, I totally see the validity of getting up or staying up late, like before they get up or after they go to sleep, to like get some extra things done.
And some time for yourself.
And some, like, time for yourself and things like that. I think a lot of the guys that end up getting on the super early morning thing are in, because I know some contractors that get up super early, and they're doing that kind of stuff. For us, it doesn't really work out that well, because our clients, we do predominantly residential work, and a lot of times our clients aren't up, so our start time's 8:30, which is like, it gives the client enough time to be awake, put on some pants, and then let us in, where we're not like at like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning,
well,
or whatever.
people don't, to me, I don't think people will want other people painting in their house at 5:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, so they can get stuff done.
So I do see a context for when you would have to adjust your schedule, regardless of your proclivity to be a night owl or whatever it may be, to have to get up earlier to get some things done or whatever it is. But I was struck by something Jordan Peterson said, is that he was saying, like, when he has clients that come in, and he's a clinical psychologist, where they have depression and then these other issues, the first thing he does is start to reestablish a good circadian rhythm. He's like, you have to get up at the same time every day.
Yep.
I don't care when that is, but you have to get up at the same time every day.
Consistently.
And he said that it was more important to get up at the same time than to go to bed at the same time, which I thought was interesting.
Right, because you usually hear do the bedtime.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think that's great. I was thinking about that actually earlier while we were chatting too. Getting up at the same time is really useful to regulate your circadian rhythm. And it also helps you almost to, like, not guilt yourself, because that's too emotional, but if you feel bad the next day, you're going to go to bed early enough so you don't feel bad the following morning, because you know the alarm's going to go off at the same time, and you really don't have a choice to work around that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think, so I was thinking a lot about that, and kind of, I got off some of my better habits over the last couple of weeks, where, like, especially like last week, I stayed up super late doing some production work, and then I did it early in the week, so it really threw off the rest of my setup, and then I stayed up till like 2 or 3 in the morning this past Sunday, doing some other stuff, and I was like,
weekend.
yeah, and then I felt like crap on Monday, and then I'm trying to like get to bed on time and do that. I was like, okay, so I really don't think you need a routine or a schedule or anything if you're not trying to get anything done. Or,
right, that's true.
Or you're already accomplishing all of the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So if things are going well, then you can probably turn off this podcast. So, but because I was hashing this out with my brother. My brother's like one of the most consistent people that I know, and he's really done a lot to like give himself a good framework to get all the things done that he wants to get done. And I'm to the point now where some things that I really need to get done aren't getting done, even with my level of output, which is, fairly decent.
Pretty decent.
But I'm like, okay, so I actually need to like start planning this out as much as it may.
Feels not as much like what you normally do.
It niggles, which I don't. It just don't like it.
Yeah.
Because even if I get myself a structure, as soon as I give myself the framework, I immediately want to like
buck the framework.
Buck the framework that I've put into place. So
yeah. So what are your thoughts now? How are you gonna help yourself with that?
So I thought we'll just run through a typical day in the. I want to get up at 7:15
Okay.
like Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
And then, because that's reasonable, that's when you started getting up
Mhm.
now too. And it just is a little bit easier than 7. So,
You have, my goal's 7, but I say if I get out of bed by 7:15, we're good.
so yeah, get out of bed 7:15.
Mhm.
And then, out the door, our door to the job site by 8 o'clock, which will put me, usually we're working, around 30 minutes away. So that gives me the job site in a reasonable window. And then I always work till 4:30-ish.
Right.
And then home by like 5:15, 5:30, right in there. I do like to take a little bit of time when I get home to like chill before I then go out and all my workouts are at night. So, and the workouts depend on what the activity is. Jiu-jitsu's
the day of the week.
Jiu-jitsu's a little later. Strength and conditioning is kind of whenever I want. And, yoga's at a specific time. And then what I want to do now, this is what I'm copying from my brother, is he puts in another work session at night, and it's about an hour. He does about an hour and a half worth of extra work on like his Amazon business or administrative stuff for real estate or whatever it is. So I'm going to work then from like, I'll do that workout thing, come home, eat some dinner, or post-workout snack, because sometimes I have dinner before then. And then work from like 9:30 to 11.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be like, or like that 9 o'clock to, 9 to 10:30 or 9:30 to 11, and then walk Gus at 11.
Oh, okay. Man, you do so much late at night.
and then like, cause that way I have a problem when I get jacked into my computer. It's hard to like shut down. And so we were talking about like
light stimulation.
Yeah. Well, cause you're super wired in, and then it's really easy for me to stay up super late watching, YouTube videos and tutorials and other things, or getting sucked more into like some sort of editing project or what have you. So then the walk with Gus is kind of sans stimulation.
Right.
And then I
wind down
kind
outside,
of wind
grounding.
down. Yeah. Come back in here. He's happy. He goes to bed, and then I'll go to bed too. That'll kind of get me through the door at like 11:30-ish. So that's my goal. So
that sounds like quite the schedule.
But you only have to do the extra work session Monday through Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Then Friday's like family dinner, and I might just do like do some like fun things on my computer that night, like do Udemy courses or learning some Photoshop stuff. It doesn't have to be like quote unquote like productive.
Right. You can just fool around some more.
Yeah, and then the weekends are more nebulous as far as the scheduling goes, but still a lot's going on.
So, but correct me if I'm wrong, if the premise that you introduced a little while ago still stands, you get up at 7:15 Saturday and Sunday as well.
Yeah, I'm not buying that completely. So I don't want to, I think there is something to catching up a little bit on sleep.
Okay.
Because I agree with Jordan Peterson that you should get up at like the same time, or that's important, but particularly in the week for me, because it's those are the days that I need to go really smoothly.
Right.
And particularly doing those sessions earlier in the week, it kind of gives you the momentum to have a good weekend. Because we were talking about like the more you go to yoga, the easier it is to go to yoga.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Like it just becomes so automatic that you're not.
It becomes more habituated.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the parameters that I have, because I need to get. I used to really rely on these marathon sessions where I'd stay up till like 3 a.m.
Right. Yep.
But now I have so much editing I need to do. I really need to start. I need to start taking chunks out of it during the week, so that when I get to Saturday and have a lot of time to do it, that I'm actually going to do it. But it's kind of like it's like when you have so much paperwork, you keep pushing it off. But if it was like one thing, you'd probably do it. So if you kind of keep the pile more manageable.
Right. Sometimes it stacks up and you're like, okay, I've got this giant pile here. And like when it was just 2 pieces of paper, you can easily manage 2 pieces of paper as long as you just do it. So that's what your weekly work sessions are for, so that you can do 2 pieces of paper every day instead of 20 on the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Which largely has not been my modus operandi. Yeah. So
it's true. New skills. We're trying to both help ourselves out with that consistency.
A little more consistent. And I will say I'll probably try and get up reasonably early on Saturday. I wouldn't sleep until like 11 o'clock. It would be, like 8 or something.
Yeah.
Just give it a little bit of wiggle room because I might stay up a little bit later on Friday.
Right. And that makes sense
If you
too.
start boxing yourself in too much, it's not supposed to be a prison sentence. You're just trying to like get some more stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a really healthy mentality. You've heard me say this a bunch of times. I don't like completely black and white statements.
Yeah.
Things are or they are not, because I've said this 100 times with regards to nutrition. Bioindividuality. There is no one size fits all for everything, everyone, all the time. There's no one blanket statement that can cover everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little bit of flexibility, I think, is fine.
And then context too for getting up early.
Yeah.
If you are married or living with someone, if you're trying to be a morning person completely arbitrarily, like, hey, you don't need to get like now we're going to get up at the same time. That works out wonderfully.
It does. That's when we do the best. And like, because that you're bringing this up, I think, because Megan and I had originally said, oh, we're going to get up at 5. We're going to do A, B, C, D, F, G, which we could do. And that would be great.
Yeah.
But it completely disrupts your life.
Yeah.
Your sleep. If I make noise, and I don't want to make noise, I already like make enough noise by accident. So we need to fix that.
Yeah, hold on. We lost the light. 1 second.
Pause.
And we're back.
Light
All
is
right.
fixed.
Hey.
Okay. So it's good to have a routine, but it's okay sometimes to have the routine disrupted, right? That's where I think I was talking about. Was that what I was talking about? I'm sorry.
I think you were saying that it can be super disruptive. You already make enough noise.
Oh,
in the
yes,
mornings.
yes. Okay. Yeah, I understand. In the morning. So like, I don't want to wake you up at 5:30 if there's no reason. I used to get up early around 5:30 back when I worked at Lakeside, but there was a purpose. I had to get ready, had to leave the house, and be there in time to open up the garage.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now if it's completely arbitrary and I say I'm going to get up at 5:30, but I don't have clients until 1, because normally most days I work 1 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., there's no point. There's not a real purpose when it's disrupting your life completely.
Right. Or who you happen to be living with.
Right.
Side note, Serena is not a quiet individual.
I am. It's just not in the kitchen.
So yeah, in the kitchen, she's the Pixie, so she's supposed to kind of float around magically,
right?
And she's very smooth and everything when she walks around. But like for whatever reason, you just like slam crap around in the kitchen, like the drawers and the cabinet.
Slam. I'm just not like particularly excessively gentle.
Aggressively shutting things.
I do not aggressively shut things.
Like if I was going to stress test cabinet door hinges, I would have you do it.
It's not that bad, Jeremy. No, it's not that bad. It's not. It just sounds loud. Hey, you've closed that same cabinet while I've been in an Epsom salt bath, and it sounds really loud too.
All right.
It's not just slamming things.
Okay.
But I do tend to drop a lot of utensils, so those do clatter a lot. I haven't dropped a dish, I don't think. Oh no, I did break one.
Yeah, you
recently.
broke a bowl. Yeah.
One of my favorite dishes.
Yeah, dude.
Forgot about that. Oh.
So
yeah, I am a little bit not exactly Pixie-esque.
Well, I always just think it's funny because you like ride my truck and whenever you get out and like slam the door, I'm like, geez, just gentle. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm just speedy. That's all. I'm just being speedy.
We'll say you're speedy. Yeah, but you made a good point of it's really about the context of, because we've tried to do things where we've tried to cultivate habits.
Yes, we were like, we got back from vacation, right? Remember in September, we're like, we're going to get up at 6 and play card games in the morning before we go to work.
Because we wanted to try and like...
That did not last long, like one day maybe.
We're basically trying to force us to become morning people. We're like, okay,
right.
Because... so like morning people are successful people. So if we become morning people, we'll be successful, kind of a thing. And we're like, okay, we're not going to do work in the morning. That's just not going to happen. So what if we did something had a little less barrier to entry, like get up and play some card games? Like we played Magic the Gathering because we're nerds. And we tried doing that. I don't even think we did it once. We're like, dude,
I think we did once because I really, really kept begging.
Yeah.
Please, let's play. Because I really think that if I were in the right context, I'd be a wonderful, happy morning person.
Yeah.
For sure. But I don't want to disrupt your life too much, sleeping wise. I understand, because you go to bed way later than me. I turn into a pumpkin at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I work late-ish. My schedule is not a 9 to 5. I work 1 to 8:30, which often becomes 9. Do a little paperwork, eat dinner. I eat way later than I want to a lot of nights. And I go to bed. 11 o'clock, I'm toast.
And a lot of times when you come home that late, you don't want to just go straight to bed. You need
Right,
a little wind down
need
time.
a little wind down time. Play with Gus.
Josh and I were talking about that today too. Like, we get done working out. yoga goes till 8:00 and then it's, you don't get home till 8:30, after you shower and whatever. And then jujitsu too. A lot of times I'm rolling really late, particularly in like Tuesday, Thursday. It's the classes until 7, and then we stay and roll after. And then I've been doing some more like back routine stuff after I'm done rolling, and that I can, it can be like 9:00, but I don't want to
sometimes it's been later than 9:00.
I don't want to just go straight to bed or whatever. I need some time to like eat some food, chop it up with you for a little bit, and then, then do all the other, like I really want to walk Gus, so he's a good little dude for you.
He loves those walks.
Dude, he's so pumped.
Excited.
So pumped for the walk.
It's so funny. He's so smart, but sometimes so dumb. You say, want to go for a walk? And he doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
He does no reaction.
It's really if I put on my jacket.
That word yet. Yeah.
If I put on my big jacket or start, like, if I get down on the floor and put on my shoes,
yes, he jumps right in your lap.
Oh shit, we're doing it.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, so it really matters the context, because a couple years ago I tried getting up early and like learning the guitar.
Yeah.
Terrible idea. Worst time for my brain to learn anything.
Right, and you've mentioned
it's
that.
first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Also, like, I've never. A lot of times on the weekends, Saturday is a real popular time for guys to like go roll, like do open mat, and my worst rolls have all been like in the morning rolls, and most of my injuries have actually been like morning, like rolling. I'm just not good at combat. I get my ass beat more times in the morning. I think the worst beatings I've taken have all been on like a Saturday morning too. I'm used to working out later at night.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier circadian rhythm, and some of it's circadian rhythm, but some of it's also just mental rhythm, like the habits that you get used to.
Yeah.
You've mentioned this a couple times on our shows before about your work routine is very similar to your school routine.
Yeah.
And since you worked maintenance, you've had the same work schedule, and it's very consistent for you that this is what we do next in the day. And humans are habitual creatures, right? Or creatures of habit. You've heard that phrase, and that's really useful. It helps you to keep consistent and keep going.
Well, you kind of become your habits. So, and that's they're a big part of who you are and what you're doing. But when you have, like, when your goals line up and then you're like, okay, that's kind of what's happened to me recently is like, okay, now I have a pretty clear direction of where I want to go.
Right.
And what I want to do with my life and kind of the things I want to work on. I'm like, okay, now how do I get this done? Are they happening the way I want them to be happening? It's kind of Jordan Peterson things like, are your sacrifices adequate to attain the things that you want to? And if your sacrifices go unappreciated and you're not getting kind of quote unquote like repaid for them, then you start becoming resentful. So it's like, okay, am I doing the right work? Because the stuff that Josh and I are working on now is not like contracting, not really.
Right.
Because painting, even when we started, you go and do a job, they pay you for the job, and then you move on to the next job. On doing like an online teaching course and stuff, there's a lot of production work that goes into it on the front end, or doing a podcast or whatever it may be. There's a lot where you're just like, I hope this works out. Like, you
don't have as quick of a feedback loop.
The feedback loop's longer. It's also unclear as to the payout. So, or the financial reward at the end of the rainbow, so to speak. So it's a little, and particularly because we haven't really done it before. So, but so that's giving myself a little more consistency. And then, like, okay, once you have a framework that you're actually engaged with, then if it's not working out, you're more likely it's easier to adjust.
Right.
Versus you just kind of, if you're doing it all willy-nilly, it's hard to tell what's working, what's not.
Right, exactly.
And that's the point I wanted to, as we were hashing this out, saying like, people correlate people that get up early to successful people, whereas it's like that 80-20 rule where it's only like 20% of your effort is giving you 80% of your success. Where the two,
that's a Tim Ferriss concept, right?
Yeah, I think the two get conflated, and there's a book that was written called the 80-20 rule that Tim Ferriss quoted. Where a lot of type A people tend to be morning folks,
right?
But there's a lot of type A folks that aren't morning folks. They're apparently just not writing books about it. But I just wouldn't necessarily conflate the two of like, because we've tried this again. Like, okay, if we're morning people, then we're going to be successful. And it's like, well, no, you don't. It's more about, like we said before, being consistent. So, And that's one of the things. So Josh and I, we have some dear friends that are very much morning people. My buddy Matt and my cousin Michael are morning folk.
Right.
And when they're up and they're chatty and talking and laughing, like just, come on guys, let's go. All right, woo. And then, but if you take them into deep water at night, and they turn into pumpkins. They're like, oh, dude, I'm so tired.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's what
what
you're
I
like. And then I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel in the morning.
Yeah,
See
that
how
makes
awake I
sense.
am right now? Like that's how you friggin' turds are in the morning. Like it's just so.
That's true.
But no one goes the other way because there's like I feel like there's a little bit of a stigma attached to the night owl situation. Tim Ferriss is actually a huge night owl.
I don't know if there is very much stigma now like that. I mean, maybe from the early riser people, but there's a lot of, there's people who are doing whatever tech, computer writing stuff. They stay up late. That's like,
oh yeah,
super renowned. That no one looks at them and think, wow, you're super lazy.
Yeah, wired in like Red Bull and doing it up. Yeah. Just thinking about that as far as, but staying up too late, man, right now, it's very, you've come at this from a little nutritional perspective as far as being inconsistent versus consistent. I've gotten myself into trouble staying up way too late and not getting enough good consistent sleep. And that seems to tax my adrenals somewhat.
A little bit.
And then you counteract it with coffee, which gets your wire.
You counteract it with coffee.
I do, yeah. So like what's going on there as far as, is it just an overall taxing of adrenals?
Well, so it depends on the person. I really think, and it depends on the case. So for you burn your adrenals out because you just say, I'm going to demand more energy from you than you have to give and stay up super late and develop a sleep debt. Now, I'll say specifically for you, if you don't mind me chatting about this on the air.
Yeah.
Tend to carry around more of a sleep debt than most people because you do push yourself further and you don't really take the time to have consistent sleep. So a lot of us actually don't need as much sleep as we think we do.
Interesting.
Really, as long as we're consistent. So, I mean, and I'm known for sleeping a lot. I sleep
you're my little koala bear.
If I have a choice, I will sleep 9 hours and it's wonderful. If I have the time, it's fantastic. But I can also do really well in 7 hours if my mentality is correct. So this was actually, I was thinking about this before, and then in the book I'm listening to, the Miracle Morning, he introduces the concept, which I think is a little bit accurate, a little bit inaccurate, of your mental state about how you're going to feel in the morning dictates more how you feel in the morning than how much sleep you actually got.
Okay.
So if you believe I'm going to wake up and feel great, that has more sway over how you feel in the morning than making sure you have 8 full hours.
Interesting.
That's why I think it's like partially correct, partially not, because sometimes you really do need more sleep. But I think the mentality is, and this is where you kind of get stuck, and I think he talks about this in his book too, the mentality of I need 8 hours to sleep to feel good.
Right.
If you throw that out and say, if I slept enough, I will feel good, that's a different perspective. It's almost like the cheat meal versus indulging in food situation.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it and say, okay, Jeremy, you consistently go to bed at midnight and you consistently get up at 7. Okay, that's 7 hours of sleep. It's a decent amount of sleep. If you can do that regularly, you're going to feel so much better and know that, okay, 7 hours, maybe 8 is ideal, but 7's good. I feel great, rather than going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 1 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then kind of like flip-flopping how you get up in the morning is more consistent to help your adrenals stay more active. So going back to your question about adrenals, we want to, I shouldn't say active and reactive. So we want to make sure that things are staying steady. You have a time for your adrenals to be active and then time to recover.
Yeah.
So that recovery time is when we sleep. So if we don't sleep consistently, there's not a consistent schedule where your adrenals can say, let's plug in and recharge, basically.
Right. Okay. I like that. Yeah, the consistency thing is
huge.
Yeah, that's kind of been the theme of this conversation thus far.
That's why I think you can be successful still having your miracle morning in the evening if that's your routine, if that's what you're used to, if you get up and you do that now. But I can also understand wanting to start the day on the right foot.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you have to do all of your exercising and all of your really big thinking first thing in the morning. I think that's more about setting your intention and mindset this day is going to bring what I want it to bring because I'm going to manifest it. I'm not going to give up until I get my goals. That's kind of the other big theme that are in these books.
Okay. Yeah, because I know from some of the ones I read, it's a lot of get up, meditate, or whatever it is you like to do is for a spiritual practice. And then exercise is a big one, which the only exercise I could ever really do early was kind of mindless cardio. So like I was halfway decent at running in the morning, but it's just because it's not that athletic. You're just like trudging along.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a Ben Greenfield podcast, I think he did with Rogan, where he talks about, he actually does all his hard workouts are in the evening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing that.
So like, because he was saying like your grip strength's optimized at that point in the day. And actually, my body feels really warmed up, but it's also what I'm gotten used to is you like I contract all day and then go work out at night. So by the time, I'm used to moving.
Right.
Just from all the up and down. So I feel more, it's also what I got used to in my early 20s. Yeah. That's what I did a lot is
routine, consistent. Yeah. You were very consistent.
And then in school too, all the sports were after school.
Yep.
So that's kind of what you get, unless you act, a lot of the guys that were in the military tend to be morning folk because that is like a drilled in skill early on. And then a lot of kids that I knew that were swimmers end up being morning people as well because they had to get up super early to go swim at whatever pool they had to go to. Just I don't know if you knew that from like...
I mean, I could have maybe have guessed that, but that's fascinating.
I don't know why that is that the swimmers all had to get up crazy. It seems like the pool would be open later too. But anyway, that's...
Maybe not if there weren't any people just swimming in it, like public people weren't coming that early?
I guess so. Yeah, it just depends on if the school had us at a pool or not. But I remember all of the swimming practices were super early. So, but
pre-classes, just like you have post-classes. I don't know.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on schedules and whatnot?
Yeah, I think finding a schedule that works for you is really the best solution. And you want to play sometimes. So I was thinking about dog training, and one of the things we say a lot in dog training is like, you have a dog's personality and you can kind of move the needle about 20% one way or the other, right? If you have a dog who's pretty aggressive, you can move about 20% less aggressive.
I like this. Yeah.
But not much further. So I was thinking about people. And it's like another, like if you have a scared dog, you can make it about 20% less scared. And that's as far as you can move. I think people have a similar response to being morning people or night people, night owls, because I know a lot of people and a lot of clients of mine who would not pick one category or the other. So that's where I say, challenge yourself, pick something, pick to be a morning person, try the miracle morning procedure. I think it's worked great for a lot of people. The whole process is you develop your routine, use your first hour of your day, whether that's, 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 7 a.m. or 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Use that hour to be productive. So try it on that side of the fence. If it does not go well and you crash and burn, kind of like you're like, I cannot do 5:30 yoga every day. It's too much.
Yeah,
I wonder if you could, if it was consistent every single day.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be easier because then I'd definitely be going to bed
Right.
earlier. But also, too, I was still doing 5:30 and then still training at night.
Right.
So it wasn't like I was
both ends
doing myself any solids there.
Yeah. So I think you can kind of be swayed 20% one way or the other. I feel like I'm a little bit in that camp.
I could go with that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah. Because I think I could probably go 11 to 6 if I had to, but I'd rather go 12 to 7:15 or 11:45 to 7:15. And we didn't really talk about like the quality of sleep you get.
Right.
Because that's huge too.
That is really huge.
But I'm like, okay, I kind of need to give myself a bedtime, as much as that irks me.
Yeah.
But having a consistent wind down procedure, and I think walking the dog is like the perfect kind of way to do that because it's
for you it works great.
Usually I listen to a podcast or something while I'm walking them. Sometimes I don't, but
that's one of the things that I recommend to all my clients or even friends who are dealing with adrenal stress. Consistent bedtime routine, wake up at the same time every day.
Yeah.
Super helpful. And
then that way, if I'm taking out chunks of, like just for the example that I'm working on right now, I'm editing this contracting 101 course that my brother and I are working on. And it's, my cousin Drew had been doing all of our video editing. He does the editing for the show. And what I got him to do this weekend is he has like the super baller computer and he's done a lot of screen capture stuff before. So I had him just do a screen capture where he did a tutorial for me to how to edit the show or not the show, but to edit the the contracting stuff. So now I know how to, and because he used like the stuff I shot, I was like, this is exactly how it's going to look when I edit it. And then he's going to do the same thing for this show.
That's great.
So I will learn the kind of grunt work because it's not necessarily all that technical, but it's a lot of
time in.
A lot of time to just sit there. It's we call it killing boars in the forest, which is a reference to a South Park episode.
Yeah, killing boars.
Which is their they did a World of Warcraft episode where there was a character that was going around World of Warcraft and slaughtering everyone. So they had to level up their characters, and the way they did that without this guy noticing is they went and killed boars in the forest, which is like the longest way to level up your character because you get like +1 or whatever it is. So anytime Josh and I have to grind, we're always like, go kill some boars in the forest. Which is what a lot of this editing is because there's so many videos and then we've got to get them to a certain place. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I think it's good, man. I think it's keeping those things, but having a plan for your day. I think that's the other big concept instead of just willy-nilly floating around.
Yeah, that's something I still struggle with, like doing a to-do list. Yeah. Because then I just immediately, as soon as I write it down, I like no longer want to do it. I just am like, well, I could do that. But then I just like hanging out with you and screwing around watching Netflix and stuff. Yeah. So it's like, that's temptation's always there.
Right, absolutely. And it's available. So you're like, okay.
Well, and you're like, this person doesn't seem to be upset that I'm not doing the things that I should be doing. So that's fine. Yeah. It's because we really, you know, I like you. I like talking to you. And then it's like, I'll be like, well, this is good for our marriage that I just sit here and bullshit with Serena.
That's fun. I enjoy hanging out with you, talking to you.
I do. But then, you know, also that's another kind of, I think this will become even more important if we do have kids to have more consistent schedule because when I was single, just shit happened. Like I just
roll with it.
I had barely had a schedule. It was just training and painting. And then painting oftentimes went to like 2 a.m. and, you know, it was all over the place.
But then when it was consistent, not going till 2 a.m, you could just do whatever you wanted with the rest of that time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you always had time to like catch up on sleep and whatever. But but I feel like you're a super low maintenance wife. It's not like you're not like, give me attention. So
I see you all the time, man.
I see you all the time. Yeah.
We talk all the time.
Yeah. We're doing a podcast together, for God's sake. But I had a book that's the complete antithesis of the book that you're listening to right now. I don't know if it's called, I think it's called Daily Rituals.
Okay.
And I know Tim Ferriss always recommends it, but it's a book that chronicles the daily rituals of like very famous, accomplished artists, like a lot of authors particularly. And they are some of the most degenerate ne'er-do-wells I've ever heard. And they tracks them through like the centuries. So
do you have examples of what kind of people that we might recognize?
Like pick an American classic, like any of these dudes. Like they did a lot of French writers from like the 1600s all the way through, you know, like famous art like Pollock, like those kind of artists. But I won't say all of them, but none of them, they were consistent. I'll give them that. But I forget the one lady's name. She was, I think, a French artist. She got up and drank a handle of vodka
my gosh.
And smoked a full carton of cigarettes every day. Carton. Yeah. So it was a lot of crazy. It was a lot of crazy heavy drinking.
Wow.
And cigarettes and then they would write in these spurts. So that being said, if you do have goals, it's like
if that's your goal, you don't have to get up in the morning.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I like that.
And that book, I tried getting through it, but it was so repetitive. It was like I don't know how much I can hear about people getting hammered and then writing an American classic. Yeah. That's it was a lot of that. Worth taking a look at if you're into that sort of thing. Ben Franklin was another one who was really funny because he always espoused the virtuosity of being a morning person, and he was not at all a morning person.
That's really funny.
He was like that guy. He actually faked being busy a lot.
Oh.
Like he had a printing shop in Philadelphia, and he would walk a wheelbarrow full of supplies up and down the street and it looked like, oh man, he must be super busy.
Yeah.
And it was complete nonsense.
That's really funny.
Like it had
people would think he was
he
doing
was just
something.
like, it was the same load of materials that he was moving back and forth. So it wasn't even like real work he was doing. People were like, wow, he's doing a lot. He was big on like faking it till you make it, that fella.
Oh, okay.
Very, very interesting character that way. But anyway, I just, daily rituals.
The juxtaposition between the two.
Of you're like, oh, so that's not how everybody does it. So,
Right. And I agree. I think there's a lot of people who do great as a morning person. I think that's where this 80-20, or rather the 20% rule goes on that needle.
Yeah.
Like with dogs. But with humans, 20%, you can push up further towards that morning person. And then the evening night owls, it's some people really are in the middle. That's okay too.
I feel like there's probably more. I kind of understand why it's slightly skewed towards the morning folks, because I feel like there's probably more morning people, because it makes sense you would want to get up with the sun.
Well, right. You want to get up
like,
with the sun.
Maybe if you're on like the night watch or something.
Right. Get up with the sun. But like even as kids, you're put on a school bus, I don't know, 5:30 in the morning. Some kids go really early. So you're used to morning activities.
Yeah.
In general in this culture.
Well, I feel like.
But like you said, I think this definitely has to do with rising with the sun, going to bed with the sun.
Because
makes sense.
Back in the day, you'd want to, if the sun came up, you'd want to get up and go work your fields and so forth, and then go to bed usually when the sun went down. Before electricity, you had like campfires and candles and stuff. So then you're like going to read a book maybe and then hit the hay. Yeah. Because you got to do like another day of hard labor the next day.
Yeah. So I think that's part of why it's better. People are more naturally inclined to being morning people. Yeah. I think a lot of people are more naturally inclined to be morning people than they think they are because they have such a dysregulated blood sugar. They take naps. They have all these stimulants, all these other things that they do to dysregulate their circadian rhythm. And I think if they removed all those adrenal stimulants, a lot more people would very easily wake up in the morning with the sun and go to bed with, in the evening when it's dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, let's. I got a good way to kind of wrap this up.
Okay.
I've heard you talk about this, not to your clients specifically, but I know it's in your realm of things, of like the wind down period of at the end, like going to bed. Because I think a lot of times the morning ritual kind of gets all the attention.
Yeah, that's true.
Which for me is get up and have coffee as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then making my smoothie, which just a side note. Someone should make Vitamix, if you're listening, make a blender that's quiet, like completely silent. Is there a way to do that?
I don't really, I think it'd have to be quite insulated.
I would like a completely silent blender and a completely silent coffee grinder.
Oh.
I have very sensitive ears.
Yeah, maybe you wear some earplugs.
I just want shh, especially in the morning, but like, that's why I would never be.
Sometimes I know if you're sleeping, I take the grinder out into the other room to grind the coffee.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times too. If you've, but that's why I would never be a carpenter. Their tools are way too loud. I hate it. Yeah.
So you have your ritual in the morning, but we want to talk a little bit more about evening wind down. You said.
Let's how one would optimally land the plane.
So I think again a little bit of bioindividuality there, but giving yourself about an hour before bedtime is really lovely. If you have the luxury of giving yourself that time. I know sometimes, pretty much all the time, when you have kids, it can be really rough, really difficult to stick with that kind of routine. If you don't have kids or anything else that's really taking your time away from you at that point, like if you don't work graveyard shift or anything.
Right.
Even if you do, having a wind down routine before you go to bed is really useful. It helps to keep with consistency. It helps you to re-regulate and keep your adrenals happy, your circadian rhythm moving in the right direction. So I like one of the big stimulants, that's not coffee, we think of coffee as adrenal stimulant, is blue light. Blue light is in any of our electronic screens, our cell phones, our TVs, light bulbs.
Right.
And blue light can actually stimulate your sympathetic nervous system. That's go mode. So if we can reduce the blue light exposure in the evening hours, which naturally happens when the sun sets, then we can improve our sleep, improve our circadian rhythm. So you can if people have iPhones or smartphones, virtually all the smartphones now have a setting where you can turn it on to nighttime mode.
Okay.
Which helps to reduce blue light activity. There's an app that you can use on your computer, f.lux, f.lux. And that's a great one that takes the blue light out of your computer screen based on your own sun pattern wherever you are. When the sun sets, it knows and it will turn off the blue light for you.
It's got like a GPS thing in it
Yeah.
or something. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think some TVs have settings now where you can turn blue light down. Also, you can also get a pair of like super cheap yellow tinted glasses.
Oh yeah.
And that'll cancel out the blue light coming into your eyeballs and help you to sleep better.
Yeah, I've started to trim down the brightness on my iPhone a lot.
Yeah, brightness matters too, not even blue light. Keeping the lights dimmer in the evening, super useful.
And I feel like the TV's not as aggressive because you're not as close to it as you are to like a computer. Like
yeah, that's true.
I
You're
feel like
farther away for sure.
I get way more wired when I'm a big 27-inch iMac, so it's like all up in my grill as far as being
and you are
bright.
really close to that compared to the TV. That's true.
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm sure that would have something to do with it. But I've done some research into lighting. I did a lot of research for like stage lighting and video stuff and for photography and whatnot. Just learning like the Kelvin ratings of like what daylight is and what tungsten is the other one. 5,600 degrees is daylight. It's for 5,600 Kelvin. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, the like when the incandescents, like when they updated the lights, it really affected how some of our paint jobs looked with the new lights that get installed.
Interesting.
So that's why I know a little bit about when the newer lights that were very, especially the LEDs and stuff. The LEDs have gotten better because they're like the power save and all this stuff, but they were very green before, like green tinted, so it made things look a little weird.
Yeah.
But they have some super cool stuff you can do with lighting that I know some homes that are set up to optimize for
That's pretty cool.
circadian rhythm. They'll actually automatically dim. And you can do some really cool stuff with like floor lighting like they do in movie theaters, where then it'll actually tin out to like red.
Okay, yeah, which is
at night.
No blue light at all.
Right. So,
yeah, that's really nice to help regulate sleep. So giving yourself a pattern, something. Drinking a warm beverage is really nice. Taking a bath maybe. Finding something that you do consistently to help yourself wind down is really helpful. Brush your teeth, do the same, close to the same thing, as close as you can each day. Your body gets used to it and it's easier and easier. If you're, trying to go to bed earlier, that's a great way to help you. It also helps you to get up earlier the next day if you need it.
Yeah. Sorry, I got off track. I was
That's
talking about stage lighting. I was getting excited.
I know, but that's useful. That's things you can do to help yourself. That's like doesn't cost money. Dim the light on your screen.
Yeah, I dim mine all the way down, and you can still see, because usually when I look at it is when I'm like walking Gus. I'm like adjusting a podcast or something. But
sleeping with your electronics on airplane mode is also super helpful because
airplane mode,
electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic frequencies, all those things can affect your sleep for sure.
Yeah, or just being disturbed.
Yeah, and
in general, like text messages coming through
Yep.
and all the push notifications and stuff like that.
Yeah, at least to turn it on to silent mode.
There's nothing there. I get fewer, more satisfying things than turning my phone on airplane mode when I'm going to take a nap. I'm like,
oh yeah,
no one's going to reach me for the next 30 minutes. Click.
That's funny. It's useful.
So yeah, so if you had like an hour wind down period where maybe minimize your screen time.
Yeah.
Like take an Epsom salt soak. That's a good time to do that. Maybe have some bagel spice tea.
Yeah.
Hot toddy if you're so inclined.
Well, actually, I was going to say you kind of want to keep the alcohol consumption further away.
Yeah, that's true.
If you do wind down, you do want to give yourself an hour. Like tea is fine, water's fine.
Yeah, no diuretics.
Yeah, I wouldn't do any diuretics.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, keeping the bedroom super dark.
Keeping the bedroom dark and cooler.
Big fan of that.
Yeah, that's really helpful for sleep. Darkness is really helpful for sleep. If you are in a room and you've got like an alarm clock light or light coming up from under your door, or you've got the light on outside and it goes through your window, all that stuff is stimulating your brain subconsciously. And even when your eyelids are closed, you still pick up on light sensors. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
So you can still tell, and it will keep you awake more than sleeping well. Sleeping solidly.
I like it. Oh, and this is just a little tip I got from Jeremiah Rizzo on my he was on my old podcast. There's an app called Kiwake.
Oh yeah.
Kiwake, and it's a horrible alarm clock.
Horrible and wonderful at the same time.
Yeah. So I don't like getting up in the morning, usually because I've stayed up too late doing stuff. But Kiwake is a ruthless alarm clock app that how I do it is I have taken a picture out in my den, which is way far away from our bedroom, and the alarm goes off, and I think you can mute it for a second, and it'll mute for like 3 minutes.
3 minutes, not long.
Not
I
long.
hated that app.
Yeah, and then 3 minutes, you've got to get up or it cuts on super loud, whatever sound you picked, and then you've got to go and take a picture and match the same picture that you took before, and then it cuts off the alarm or prevents it from. So you actually have to get up, go somewhere, and recreate that exact picture. Now you want to be very careful with what picture you're taking because you don't want it to depend on daylight and stuff.
Right.
So
oh no, you could never turn it off.
yeah, you want to take, if you use the app, you want to take the picture at the same time you would be taking the picture in the morning.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So
just
that
so the
matches more closely.
and I took a picture of basically a poster I have on the wall, so that doesn't change.
Right.
Because that would be a bummer.
Not like the flowers outside.
Yeah, and the only thing that will turn it, like if you didn't get the picture or something, the only thing you can do is like cut the phone off.
Power down
like
your
actually
phone.
power down the phone.
And then it makes a terrible screeching noise.
Yep. So if you have issues getting up in the morning,
It will force you to either wear earplugs
Yeah.
or get up on time.
and there's like a 3-stage, you can add things too, like
Oh, wow.
puzzle games and quotes and all these
Yeah.
other things. So anyway, that's my little tidbit to help people. Maybe if you're going to make a run at being a morning person.
Yeah, try it out.
So
You might like it.
anything else to add, Sweetness? I think we covered
I
it.
think we're good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will see you in the outro.
And that is it for us today, folks. Thanks for listening to episode number 11 of The Painter and the Pixie. We have super enjoyed having a great little conversation here about the great debate, the morning person versus the night owl, and accomplishing some goals.
Tensions rise.
Yes. And trying to, help your adrenals out so you can kind of push yourself 20% one way or the other and see what happens. It's worth giving it a shot.
Agreed.
Yeah, so thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed our show, if you have found something fascinating or useful, please do share it with your friends. We always enjoy hearing feedback from our friends and family who listen to the show, and we think that your friends and family might enjoy it too.
Yeah, and word of mouth is a good and powerful force in this world, and something Serena and I have both employed in our respective businesses. So, that's our one and only request. If you like the show, pass it around.
Yeah.
Good times all around. I think that's it.
I think that's
We good?
it.
Those are all the things?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the week. If you're on the East Coast, sorry about this nor'easter that's about to blast through. And stay safe, have fun, and I'll talk to you soon. Yep.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Amazing.